The distress beacon cut through the void of space like a desperate scream. It broadcast on every known frequency, pulsing with the urgency of a dying civilization. The message was simple, translated into thousands of galactic languages. This is the Valorian Collective. Our homeworld is under siege. We are the last. Please, anyone who can hear this, we need help. Commander Lysara stood on the bridge of the Valorian flagship, Eternal Dawn, watching the tactical display with hollow eyes. Around their homeworld of Valoria Prime, the enemy fleet moved like hungry predators. The Kreth Dominion had come without warning, without negotiation, without mercy. Their massive warships, each the size of a small moon, had torn through the Valorian defense fleet in less than a cycle. "Any response to the beacon?" Lysara asked, though she already knew the answer. Her communications officer, a young Valorian named Thex, shook his head. His blue-scaled face showed the same exhaustion they all felt. "Nothing, Commander. The Galactic Council acknowledged receipt but said they cannot spare forces. The Draknari Empire said the conflict is too far from their borders. The Zenthi Federation expressed their sympathies but declined to intervene." Lysara's clawed hands gripped the edge of her command console. Sympathies. As if kind words could stop the plasma bombardment that was slowly turning their beautiful world into ash and ruin. The Valorians had always been a peaceful species, focused on art, philosophy, and scientific discovery. Their military was small, designed only for defense against pirates and minor threats. They had never imagined someone like the Kreth would come for them. "How many ships do we have left?" Lysara asked quietly. 17, Commander, down from 240. The number hit her like a physical blow. So many friends, so many brave souls, gone. And for what? The Kreth wanted their world for its resources, its position along major trade routes. The Valorians were simply in the way. Obstacles to be removed. "Keep broadcasting," Lysara ordered. "Someone has to hear us. Someone has to care." But even as she said it, she felt the weight of despair. The galaxy had heard. The galaxy simply didn't care enough to risk their own forces against the Kreth Dominion. The Valorians would die alone, forgotten, just another extinct species in the long history of the cosmos. On the surface of Valoria Prime, millions huddled in underground shelters as the bombardment continued. Ancient cities, centers of learning that had stood for 10,000 years, crumbled under the assault. The planet's famous crystal spires, which had caught the light of their twin suns and painted the sky with rainbows, lay shattered like broken dreams. In orbit, the Kreth Fleet Commander Warlord Zrathok watched the destruction with satisfaction. His species had evolved on a harsh world where only strength mattered. The weak were consumed, the strong dominated. It was the natural order, and the Kreth had risen to dominance by embracing this truth completely. "How much longer until the planetary defenses collapse?" Zrathok rumbled, his massive frame barely fitting in the command throne. "Another planetary rotation, perhaps 2, his tactical officer reported. "The Valorians fight with surprising determination for such a weak species, but they cannot hold. Then we proceed as planned. Once the defenses fall, begin ground operations. I want this world stripped of everything valuable. The Valorians can watch their civilization end before we finish them." Zrathok had conquered dozens of worlds. This was simply another. The galaxy spoke of honor, of mercy, of justice. But these were the delusions of the weak. Power was the only truth, and the Kreth had power in abundance. Back on the Eternal Dawn, Lysara received another report that made her heart sink. The planetary shields were failing. At current rates, they would collapse within 2 cycles. After that, there would be nothing to stop the Kreth from landing troops and finishing what they'd started. "Commander," Thex called out suddenly, his voice rising with something that might have been hope. "I'm detecting something. Multiple jump signatures at the edge of the system." Lysara felt a flutter in her chest. Reinforcements? Did someone answer? Thex worked his console frantically, pulling in sensor data. His expression shifted from hope to confusion. I don't understand. The signatures are human. Human? Lysara moved to his station. She knew of Earth, of course. Everyone in the galaxy did. The humans were the newcomers, the strange species that had only achieved faster-than-light travel about 200 cycles ago. They were primitives by galactic standards. Their technology crude, their understanding of the universe limited. Most species viewed them as curiosities, interesting but largely irrelevant to galactic affairs. Confirmed, Commander. I'm reading 347 human vessels dropping out of faster-than-light travel. They're taking up formation at Grid 77 Alpha. 300 ships. More than the Valorians had started with. But they were human ships. Lysara had seen the intelligence reports. Human vessels were small compared to most military craft, their weapons less sophisticated, their shields weaker. What could they possibly do against the Kreth Armada? Open a channel, Lysara ordered. Let me speak with their commander. The view screen flickered and shifted. Instead of the Kreth ships or the dying world below, Lysara found herself looking at a human. The creature was bipedal, with strange, smooth skin and hair only on top of its head. It wore a dark uniform with insignia she didn't recognize. Its eyes, though, those eyes held something that made Lysara pause. They weren't the eyes of a primitive. They were hard, determined, and completely fearless. This is Fleet Admiral Chen of the United Earth Navy, the human said. His voice came through the translator as calm and steady. We received your distress call. The cavalry has arrived. Lysara didn't know what cavalry meant, but she understood the tone. Admiral Chen, this is Commander Lysara. While we appreciate your response, you must understand what you're facing. The Kreth Dominion fleet consists of over 600 warships, many larger than your entire fleet combined. They have already destroyed most of our forces. I cannot in good conscience allow you to throw your lives away in a hopeless battle. Chen's expression didn't change. Commander, with all due respect, you sent out a galaxy-wide SOS. Earth answered. We don't show up just to turn around and leave. Now, if you'll transmit your tactical data, we can coordinate our response. Admiral, please listen to me, Lysara insisted, feeling desperation creep into her voice. The Kreth are not like the pirates or raiders you may have encountered. They are a warrior race that has conquered dozens of systems. Their weapons can crack planets. Their shields can withstand sustained bombardment from multiple capital ships. Your vessels are too small, too fragile. You will be destroyed. For the first time, Chen smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. Commander, humans have been underestimated before. It never ends well for the other guy. Now, are you going to share that tactical data, or do we go in blind? Lysara made a decision. These humans had come when no one else would. If they wanted to die beside the Valorians, at least they wouldn't die alone. Transmitting now, but please, Admiral, reconsider. Your species shouldn't end here. We don't plan to end anywhere, Chen replied. Earth's battle armada doesn't lose. Give us 2 hours to get into position. Then we'll show the Kreth why attacking our friends was the biggest mistake they ever made. The channel closed. Lysara stood on her bridge, surrounded by her exhausted crew, and felt a strange emotion stirring. It wasn't hope exactly. These humans were going to die just like the Valorians, but at least they would die fighting. At least someone had cared enough to try. Across the system, the Kreth fleet detected the new arrivals. In his command throne, Warlord Zrathok received the report with amusement. Humans? He laughed, a sound like grinding rocks. The primitives think they can challenge the Kreth? This will be entertaining. Detach Battle Group 7. Have them destroy the human fleet while we finish the Valorians. His tactical officer hesitated. Warlord, Battle Group 7 consists of 85 ships. The humans have brought over 300. They are humans, Zrathok growled. Soft, weak creatures who only recently learned to leave their world. 85 Kreth warships could destroy 3,000 human vessels. Send Battle Group 7, I want to watch this. The orders went out. 85 massive Kreth warships, each bristling with weapons and protected by shields that could withstand nuclear detonations, broke formation and accelerated toward the human fleet. Their commanders were eager, anticipating easy prey and the glory that would come from adding human ships to their kill counts. Admiral Chen watched the approaching Kreth ships on his tactical display. Around him, the bridge of the UNS Enterprise, Earth's newest and most advanced warship, hummed with activity. His crew worked with practiced efficiency, each person knowing their role, each ready for what was coming. 85 ships, his tactical officer reported. They're not even bringing their full force. I think they're trying to insult us, sir. Chen nodded slowly. That's good. Let them underestimate us. It makes this easier. He opened a fleet-wide channel. All ships, this is Chen. You know the drill. Let's introduce ourselves properly. Weapons free in 3 minutes. Make every shot count. Across the human fleet, captains acknowledged the order. These weren't the crude vessels the Kreth expected. In the 200 years since humanity had reached for the stars, they had learned hard lessons. They'd encountered hostile species before, had fought and bled and adapted. Human ships were smaller than most galactic standard vessels, yes, but that was intentional. Smaller meant faster, more maneuverable, harder to hit. And what human ships lacked in size, they made up for in cunning. Humanity had brought something to the galaxy that other species had forgotten or never possessed: the accumulated wisdom of thousands of years of warfare. Every human vessel carried the lessons learned from ancient Earth, from naval battles and aerial combat, from the trenches of old wars and the vacuum of space skirmishes. The Kreth Battle Group 7 closed to weapons range. Their massive ships locked targeting solutions on the human fleet. To the Kreth commanders, it looked like the humans were simply floating in space, waiting to die. They opened fire, thousands of plasma bolts and missile salvos streaking across the void. Admiral Chen watched the attack coming and spoke one word: now. The human fleet erupted into motion. Every ship activated their drives at maximum power, scattering in dozens of different directions. The Kreth barrage, aimed at where the humans had been, found only empty space. Before the Kreth could adjust their targeting, the humans were already moving into their attack pattern. It was a tactic as old as human warfare, perfected over centuries: the swarm. Instead of meeting the larger Kreth ships head-on, the human vessels split into small groups and attacked from multiple angles. They moved like fighter aircraft from ancient Earth, like submarines stalking prey, like wolves surrounding a bear. The first Kreth ship died quickly. It never stood a chance. 30 human vessels converged on it simultaneously, their weapons firing in precise coordination. Human railguns, accelerating projectiles to incredible speeds, punched through shields designed to stop energy weapons. Human missiles, each with its own guidance system and electronic warfare package, overwhelmed point defense systems. Human plasma cannons, smaller than Kreth versions but firing 3 times faster, found weak points in armor. The Kreth warship exploded, its reactor going critical, taking 2 nearby vessels with it in the blast. In those first 30 seconds of combat, humanity taught the Kreth a lesson that the galaxy had somehow forgotten. Size doesn't always matter. What matters is how you use what you have. On the eternal dawn, Lysara watched in stunned silence as the battle unfolded. The humans moved like nothing she'd ever seen. Their ships danced through space, their formation flowing like water, adapting instantly to every Kreth maneuver. Where Kreth vessels were powerful but slow, human ships were fast and precise. Where Kreth tactics relied on overwhelming firepower, humans used coordination and strategy. "Commander!" Thex breathed. "They're winning!" It seemed impossible, but the sensor data didn't lie. In the first 5 minutes of combat, the humans had destroyed 6 Kreth ships and damaged a dozen more. The Kreth, meanwhile, had barely managed to land hits on the darting human vessels. The few human ships that were struck seemed to shrug off damage that should have destroyed them, their armor absorbing impacts, their systems rerouting around damaged sections. "What kind of species are these humans?" Lysara whispered. She was about to find out. The battle was just beginning, and humanity was just getting started. Warlord Zrathok watched his tactical display with growing disbelief. Battle Group 7, 85 of his finest warships, was being torn apart. The humans moved through space like predators, their small ships working together in ways that shouldn't be possible. Kreth doctrine emphasized individual ship power, each vessel a fortress unto itself. These humans operated as a single organism, each ship supporting the others, creating a whole greater than its parts. "Recall Battle Group 7, Zrathok ordered, his voice tight with anger. "Commit Battle Groups 3, 4, and 5. 200 ships, crush them." His tactical officer nodded and transmitted the orders. Around the dying world of Valoria Prime, more Kreth vessels broke formation and moved to intercept the humans. This time they wouldn't underestimate their enemy. Admiral Chen saw the new Kreth forces coming and allowed himself a small smile. The enemy was responding exactly as predicted. Humanity had studied Kreth tactics extensively, analyzing every battle report, every engagement they could find in galactic databases. The Kreth were powerful, but predictable. They believed in overwhelming force, in direct confrontation. They saw war as a test of strength. Humans saw war as problem-solving with explosions. And humanity had always been good at solving problems. "They're committing more forces," his tactical officer reported. 200 ships inbound. "Good," Chen replied. "Let's draw them away from the Valorians. All ships, execute pattern Delta 7. Make them chase us." The human fleet began a fighting retreat, moving away from Valoria Prime while maintaining constant fire on the pursuing Kreth. It looked like a withdrawal, like humanity was trying to escape. The Kreth commanders saw weakness and pressed their attack, eager to finish what they'd started. They didn't realize they were being led into a trap. Behind the advancing Kreth fleet, invisible to their sensors, human stealth ships moved into position. These vessels, coated in materials that absorbed sensor scans, had been waiting silent and dark since the fleet's arrival. Now they came alive, their engines burning cold to minimize heat signatures, positioning themselves behind the Kreth formation. On Valoria Prime, in an underground command center, Lysara coordinated with the human admiral. Her remaining 17 ships had been integrated into the human battle network, their crews working alongside human tactical officers who'd transported over to assist. It was remarkable how quickly the humans had established coordination, how smoothly their systems interfaced with Valorian technology, despite being completely different in design. "Admiral Chen," Lysara said, studying the tactical display, "they're pursuing you with 200 ships. That leaves 400 around our world. We can't stand against that many." Chen's voice came through clear and confident. "Commander, watch and learn. In about 90 seconds, those 400 ships are going to have bigger problems than you." Lysara didn't understand, but she'd learned to trust this strange human and his impossible fleet. "What do you need from us?" "When I give the signal, I need you to power up every transmitter, every communications array, every sensor you have. Make as much electromagnetic noise as possible. Blind their sensors with static." "That will blind our sensors too," Lysara pointed out. "We don't need sensors for what comes next," Chen replied, and Lysara heard something in his voice that might have been anticipation. "Humans learned to fight in the dark a long time ago." The 90 seconds passed. The Kreth fleet pursuing the humans spread out, trying to surround the smaller human vessels and cut off their escape routes. They were so focused on the chase that none of them noticed the stealth ships behind them until it was too late. "Now," Chen ordered. Lysara activated every transmitter in the Valorian fleet. Across the planet, the surviving ground stations did the same. The system flooded with electromagnetic interference, creating a blanket of static that overwhelmed sensors and communications alike. In that moment of blindness, the human stealth ships struck. They'd positioned themselves directly behind the Kreth formation, their weapons locked on the massive engine sections of the enemy warships. Human torpedoes, each carrying a fusion warhead, launched in a synchronized salvo. 50 stealth ships, 4 torpedoes each, 200 nuclear detonations blooming simultaneously in the void. The Kreth ships reeled. Their shields, designed to protect against frontal assaults, were weaker at the rear. Fusion fire washed over engine sections and power plants. Systems overloaded. Ships went dark, their power cores shutting down automatically to prevent catastrophic failure. In an instant, half of the pursuing Kreth fleet was crippled, drifting helpless in space. The remaining Kreth ships tried to turn, to face this new threat, but the human fleet had already reversed course. Caught between the stealth ships behind and the main fleet ahead, the Kreth found themselves in a crossfire. Human weapons tore into them from both directions. The battle became a massacre. Around Valoria Prime, the remaining Kreth forces detected the disaster befalling their comrades and hesitated. Warlord Zrathok's fleet, which had seemed invincible minutes ago, was being systematically destroyed by an enemy they'd dismissed as primitives. "Warlord," his tactical officer reported, voice shaking. "Battle groups 3, 4, 5, and 7 are destroyed or disabled. We've lost nearly 300 ships. The humans are regrouping and moving toward our position." Zrathok's mind raced. This was impossible. The Kreth Dominion had crushed dozens of species. They were the apex predators of this region of space. How were these humans defeating them so completely? "All ships, defensive formation around the flagship," Zrathok ordered. "Concentrate fire on the human fleet when they approach. We still outnumber them. We can still win this." But even as he gave the orders, doubt crept into his mind. He'd seen human tactics now. They didn't fight like other species. They didn't follow the established rules of galactic warfare. They fought like demons, appearing from nowhere, striking from unexpected angles, turning every Kreth advantage against them. The human fleet approached Valoria Prime in a formation that puzzled the remaining Kreth commanders. Instead of the loose fluid groups they'd used earlier, the humans had arranged themselves into a solid wall of ships, advancing steadily. It looked like a frontal assault, the kind of straightforward attack the Kreth understood and could counter. Zrathok studied the formation and felt his confidence return slightly. They're making a mistake. Concentrating like that makes them an easy target. All ships, prepare to fire on my command. We'll shatter that formation with a single volley. The 400 remaining Kreth ships locked weapons on the approaching human wall. Plasma cannons charged, missile tubes loaded, every weapon system came online, ready to unleash destruction. "Fire!" Zrathok commanded. The Kreth fleet fired as one, thousands of weapons releasing simultaneously, enough firepower to vaporize a small moon streaked toward the human formation. And then the human wall flickered. The ships that had seemed so solid, so concentrated, suddenly dispersed. What the Kreth had seen wasn't the real human fleet. It was a holographic projection, sensor ghosts created by human electronic warfare systems. The real human ships, all 347 of them, had been above and below the projected formation, hidden by the same stealth technology that had concealed their earlier ambush. The Kreth barrage, aimed at ghosts, found nothing but vacuum. Before the Kreth could reload, the real human fleet struck from above and below simultaneously, punching through the Kreth defensive formation like knives through silk. Lysara watched from the eternal dawn as human ships tore through the Kreth fleet. She'd seen military engagements before, studied tactics and strategy at the Valorian Military Academy. But this was something else entirely. The humans fought with a creativity, a ruthlessness, and a precision that took her breath away. "They're not just defeating the Kreth," Thek said, his voice filled with awe. "They're teaching them a lesson." It was true. Every human maneuver seemed designed not just to win, but to demonstrate the futility of Kreth resistance. The humans could have simply destroyed the Kreth fleet with overwhelming firepower, but instead they used tactics and strategy, showing that intelligence and adaptability trumped raw power. Admiral Chen coordinated the assault from the Enterprise, his crew working with practiced efficiency. Around the flagship, human captains executed their orders with the confidence that came from training and experience. Each ship knew its role, each crew trusted their training, and together they fought like champions. A Kreth battleship, one of their largest, tried to ram the Enterprise. It was a desperate move, the kind of attack that relied on sheer mass and armor. Chen didn't even look concerned. He gave a simple order: Pattern Omega-3. 6 human destroyers peeled away from the formation and converged on the charging battleship. They didn't try to stop it directly. Instead, they targeted its maneuvering thrusters, its navigation systems, its helm control. Precisely placed railgun rounds shredded the systems that allowed the massive vessel to steer. The battleship, now tumbling out of control, spun past the Enterprise and into the gravitational well of Valoria Prime, where it would eventually burn up in the atmosphere. "Sir," Chen's tactical officer reported, "the Kreth flagship is trying to withdraw. They're moving toward the system's edge." Chen shook his head. "Not today. All ships pursue. Don't let Zrathok escape. If he makes it back to Kreth space, they'll just send more fleets. We end this here." The human fleet broke into pursuit groups, each chasing down fleeing Kreth vessels. The Kreth, who had come to Valoria Prime as conquerors, now fled as prey. But space offered nowhere to hide, and the humans had no intention of letting them go. Warlord Zrathok sat in his command throne and watched his fleet die around him. Ship after ship fell to human weapons. His commanders, the best warriors the Kreth Dominion could produce, were outmaneuvered and outfought at every turn. The species he'd dismissed as primitive had just destroyed 600 Kreth warships with casualties so light they barely registered. "Open a channel to the human fleet," Zrathok ordered. "I will negotiate our withdrawal." His communications officer worked frantically, and soon Admiral Chen's face appeared on the view screen. The human's expression was cold, unyielding. "Warlord Zrathok," Chen said, his voice flat. "You have something to say?" "Admiral Chen," Zrathok began, forcing himself to speak calmly, "you have proven yourselves formidable warriors. The Kreth Dominion respects strength. Let us withdraw, and we will not return to this system." Chen leaned forward slightly. "Do you know how many Valorian civilians died in your bombardment, Warlord? How many cities you destroyed? How many lives you ended because you wanted resources and territory?" "That is the nature of war," Zrathok replied. "The strong take from the weak. It has always been thus." "Not anymore," Chen said quietly. "The Valorians sent out an SOS and Earth answered. We came here to stop you, and that's what we're doing. You're not withdrawing. You're surrendering. Every Kreth ship in this system will power down their weapons and prepare to be boarded. Your commanders will face trial for crimes against sentient beings, and you, Warlord, will be taken to Earth to answer for what you've done." Zrathok felt rage surge through him. "You dare? Do you know what the Kreth Dominion will do when they learn what happened here? They will send fleets, armies, more ships than you can imagine." Chen's expression didn't change. "Let them come. Earth doesn't abandon its friends, and we don't let tyrants go unpunished. You came to Valoria Prime looking for a fight. Congratulations, you found one. Now you're going to face the consequences." The channel closed. Zrathok stared at the blank screen, realizing for the first time in his life what it felt like to be the prey instead of the predator. Around his flagship, human ships moved into position, their weapons trained on every Kreth vessel. Warlord, his tactical officer said softly. We have no choice. If we resist, they'll destroy us all. Zrathok wanted to order one final attack, to die fighting as a Kreth warrior should, but he looked at the human fleet, at the remains of his own forces, and understood the truth. The humans had already won. Dying now would change nothing except adding his crew to the casualty count. Power down weapons, Zrathok ordered, the words tasting like poison. Signal our surrender. Across the Kreth fleet, the remaining ships went dark. The battle, which had seemed so one-sided when it began, was over. The Kreth Dominion, feared throughout this sector of space, had been decisively defeated by humanity. On Valoria Prime, in cities and shelters across the planet, Valorians emerged to see the sky clearing. The bombardment had stopped. The Kreth fleet was gone, replaced by human vessels that orbited peacefully, their weapons silent. Lysera stood on the bridge of the eternal dawn and felt emotions she couldn't name: relief, gratitude, wonder, and something else. Hope, perhaps. Hope that the galaxy wasn't as cold and cruel as it had seemed. Hope that there were still species who would answer a desperate call for help. Commander, Admiral Chen's voice came through the channel. Valoria Prime is secure. The Kreth have surrendered. You're safe now. Admiral, Lysera said, struggling to find words adequate to the moment. How can we ever thank you? You came when no one else would. You saved us when we'd given up hope. Chen's expression softened slightly. Commander, humans have a saying, all that is necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. The Valorians needed help. Earth answered. That's what allies do. But we're not allies, Lysera pointed out. Our species have barely had contact. We've never signed treaties, never established formal relations. You sent an SOS, Chen replied simply. That's all the formal relation we needed. In human culture, when someone calls for help, you answer. It's as simple as that. Lysera felt her heart swell. She'd spent her entire life believing the galaxy operated on cold calculations of self-interest, that species only helped each other when there was something to gain. The humans had just proven that belief wrong. Then on behalf of the Valorian people, Lysera said formally, I extend our deepest gratitude and friendship to Earth and humanity. You have saved not just our lives, but our entire civilization. We were happy to help, Chen replied. Now let's get your defense systems back online and start helping your people rebuild. We'll maintain a presence here until you're back on your feet. And Commander, welcome to the list of Earth's friends. We take care of our own. 3 cycles after the battle, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from hundreds of species gathered in the massive chamber on the neutral world of Axiom Prime. The chamber, designed to showcase the majesty of galactic civilization, felt different today. Tension filled the air like an electrical charge before a storm. Ambassador T-Vex of the Draknari Empire stood at his podium, his scaled face showing the concern he felt. He'd served on the council for 30 years and had never seen anything like what happened at Valoria Prime. A species barely 2 centuries into space travel had just defeated one of the most powerful military forces in the sector. The council recognizes Earth's Ambassador Rodriguez, the council chairman announced. A human stepped forward to the central speaking platform. Ambassador Maria Rodriguez was a small woman by human standards, wearing a simple dark suit that stood in stark contrast to the elaborate robes and ceremonial armor worn by most galactic representatives. She carried no weapons, wore no medals, displayed no symbols of rank. Yet as she walked to the podium, every eye in the chamber followed her. Honored council members, Rodriguez began, her voice amplified throughout the vast chamber. I stand before you today to address the events at Valoria Prime. I know many of you have questions. Some of you have concerns. And yes, Some of you are afraid. So let me be clear about what happened and what it means going forward. The chamber remained silent. Every species representative leaned forward, eager to understand what humanity had just revealed about itself. The Valorian Collective sent out a distress call, Rodriguez continued. A galaxy-wide SOS. They were dying, their world was burning, and they asked for help. Not for military alliance, not for political advantage, just help. They broadcast that call to every species, every empire, every federation, and the response they received was silence. Ambassador Tavex shifted uncomfortably. The Draknari Empire had indeed received the Valorian distress call. They'd held emergency meetings, conducted risk assessments, calculated potential costs. In the end, they'd decided intervention wasn't in their strategic interest. Looking back now, that decision felt shameful. Earth heard that call, Rodriguez said, her voice growing stronger. We heard a civilization crying out in desperation, and we answered. Not because we had treaties with the Valorians, not because we expected payment or territorial concessions. We answered because it was the right thing to do. A murmur ran through the chamber. The concept wasn't alien to galactic civilization, but it was rare. Most species helped their allies, their trading partners, their political blocs. Helping strangers, risking lives and resources for species you'd barely met. That was unusual. Foolish, many would have said. Some of you are concerned about Earth's military capabilities, Rodriguez acknowledged. You've seen the battle recordings. You know that humanity destroyed a Kreth fleet of 600 warships while suffering minimal casualties. You're wondering what else Earth is capable of. You're wondering if humanity poses a threat. She paused, letting the words hang in the air. In the galleries above, representatives of 100 species waited for her answer. Some hoped she would reassure them. Others expected threats. All were surprised by what came next. Let me tell you about human history, Rodriguez said. My species evolved on a world that tried to kill us at every opportunity. We survived ice ages and droughts, predators and plagues. We fought each other for resources, territory, ideology, religion, and sometimes for no good reason at all. We built weapons that could destroy our entire world several times over. We came very close to extinction more than once. The galactic representatives listened with growing unease. What kind of species was this that had nearly wiped itself out? But we also did something else, Rodriguez continued. We learned. We adapted. Every mistake, every tragedy, every loss taught us something. We learned that cooperation beats conflict. We learned that diversity makes us stronger. We learned that the only way to survive is to help each other survive. These aren't just pretty words for us. They're lessons written in blood and ash, learned over thousands of years of hard experience. She gestured to the displays around the chamber, where footage from Valoria Prime played on loop. Human ships darting through space, working in perfect coordination, each vessel supporting the others. You see our military capabilities and worry about our strength, Rodriguez said. But you should understand something about humanity. We're not like the Kreth. We don't see war as a test of dominance. We see it as problem-solving. The Kreth came to Valoria Prime with overwhelming force, expecting power alone to guarantee victory. We came with strategy, tactics, coordination, and adaptability. We won not because we had better weapons, but because we understood something the Kreth forgot. Wars aren't won by the strongest, they're won by the smartest. In his seat, Ambassador Tavex found himself nodding slightly. It was a profound shift in perspective. The galactic community had spent millennia focusing on building larger ships, more powerful weapons, stronger shields. The humans had focused on using what they had more effectively. But here's what you really need to understand, Rodriguez said, her voice filling the chamber. Earth's battle armada didn't go to Valoria Prime to demonstrate our military prowess. We went because people needed help. That's who we are. That's what humanity does. And I'm here today to make something absolutely clear to this council and every species watching. If you're in trouble, if your civilization is threatened, if you need help, Earth will answer. The chamber erupted in voices. Some representatives called out questions, others voiced concerns, a few expressed gratitude. The chairman called for order, his voice barely audible over the commotion. "Ambassador Rodriguez," the chairman said once quiet was restored, "are you saying Earth intends to intervene in any conflict anywhere in galactic space?" "No," Rodriguez replied firmly. "I'm saying that if someone sends an SOS, we'll answer. If someone is being attacked by aggressors, we'll help defend them. We're not looking to conquer. We're not seeking empire. And we're not trying to impose our will on others. But we will not stand by while civilizations burn and the galaxy does nothing." "And what about the Kreth?" Ambassador T-Vex asked, standing at his podium. "Warlord Zrathok and his commanders are currently in human custody. The Kreth Dominion is demanding their return and threatening retaliation if you refuse. What is Earth's response?" Rodriguez met his gaze steadily. "Warlord Zrathok committed war crimes. He ordered the bombardment of civilian population centers, the destruction of cultural heritage sites, the attempted genocide of an entire species. He will face trial on Earth for those crimes. If the Kreth Dominion wants war over this, then they'll get war. But they should understand something first. They just lost 600 ships to 347 human vessels. If they come looking for revenge, we'll send them home the same way we sent Zrathok, in chains." The bluntness of the statement shocked the council. Species didn't usually speak to powerful empires this way. It was diplomatic suicide. But the human ambassador stood there calmly, waiting for the next question, completely unafraid. On the Kreth homeworld of Krathis Prime in the Imperial War Chamber, the Dominion's leaders watched the council broadcast with rage and disbelief. High Overlord Krathax, Supreme Commander of all Kreth military forces, smashed his fist on the strategic table hard enough to crack the stone surface. "They dare!" Krathax roared. "They hold our warriors prisoner and threaten us with more war! The humans will learn what it means to challenge the Kreth Dominion." His advisors shifted nervously. They'd all seen the battle reports from Valoria Prime. The tactical analysis had been sobering. The humans fought in ways the Kreth had never encountered, using strategies that turned every Kreth advantage into a liability. "High Overlord," one brave advisor ventured, "perhaps we should consider negotiation. The humans defeated 600 ships with minimal losses. If we commit more forces and lose, it could encourage other species to challenge our authority." Krathax turned his glare on the advisor, who stepped back instinctively. "Are you suggesting the Kreth Dominion should show weakness? That we should negotiate with primitives who humiliated our warriors?" "I'm suggesting we should be strategic," the advisor replied carefully. "The humans are clearly more capable than we thought. Perhaps there are other ways to handle this situation." Krathax considered this. He'd built his reputation on strength and decisive action. But he hadn't survived 50 years of military campaigns by being stupid. The humans had revealed capabilities that changed the tactical calculus significantly. "Send an envoy to Earth," Krathax ordered finally. "Tell them the Dominion wishes to discuss the return of our warriors and the establishment of formal relations. But make sure they understand this is not a surrender. The Kreth remember those who wrong us." Back at Valoria Prime, the rebuilding efforts were underway. Human engineering teams worked alongside Valorian crews, helping repair damaged infrastructure, restore power grids, and rebuild destroyed cities. It was remarkable how quickly the two species learned to work together, despite differences in biology, technology, and culture. Commander Lysara walked through the reconstructed Central Plaza of Valor City, the capital. 3 cycles ago, this place had been a smoking crater. Now, thanks to human assistance and Valorian determination, the plaza was being rebuilt. The famous crystal spires were gone, shattered beyond repair, but new structures were rising in their place. Different, perhaps, but still beautiful. "Commander Lysara," a voice called out. She turned to see Admiral Chen approaching, accompanied by a human engineer carrying technical readouts. "Admiral," Lysara greeted him warmly. The two had spent considerable time together over the past cycles, coordinating reconstruction efforts and establishing defense protocols. She'd come to respect the human deeply. He carried his authority lightly but commanded absolutely. His crews followed him not out of fear, but out of genuine loyalty and respect. "I wanted to show you something," Chen said, gesturing to the engineer who pulled up a holographic display. "We've been analyzing your defensive systems, and we have some suggestions. With your permission, we'd like to help upgrade them." Lysara studied the display. The human proposals were ingenious, combining Valorian shield technology with human tactical doctrine. The result would be defensive capabilities far beyond what the Valorians had possessed before the attack. "This is extraordinary," Lysara said. "But Admiral, we cannot afford to pay for all this. Our economy is shattered. Our resources are depleted from the war." Chen smiled. "Commander, Earth didn't come here for profit. We came to help. These upgrades are our gift to Valoria Prime, to ensure you're never vulnerable like this again." "I don't understand," Lysara admitted. "In galactic politics, no one gives something for nothing. What does Earth gain from this generosity?" "We gain friends," Chen replied simply. "Allies, partners. The galaxy is a big place, and humanity is still learning our way around it. We figure the best way to establish ourselves is to be the kind of neighbor people want to have, help when it's needed, defend when it's right, and build relationships based on trust rather than fear." Lysara felt her understanding of humanity deepening. They truly were different from other species she'd encountered. "You know," she said thoughtfully, "when you first arrived, I thought you were fools. Brave fools, certainly, but doomed to die alongside us. I couldn't understand why you would risk everything for strangers." "And now?" Chen asked. "Now I think perhaps the rest of the galaxy has been foolish," Lysara said. "We've spent so long calculating advantages, weighing costs, protecting our own interests, that we forgot what it means to simply help each other. You've reminded us that there's another way." A call came through Chen's communicator. He listened briefly, then looked at Lysara with an expression she couldn't quite read. "The Kreth Dominion has sent an envoy to Earth. They want to negotiate." "Will you release Warlord Zrathok?" Lysara asked. "Absolutely not," Chen replied firmly. "He committed crimes, and he'll face justice. But we're willing to talk about establishing formal relations with the Kreth, setting boundaries, creating frameworks to prevent future conflicts. Earth doesn't want endless war. We want peace, but it has to be real peace, based on mutual respect and consequences for aggression." Over the following cycles, something unprecedented happened in galactic politics. Species that had dismissed humanity as primitive newcomers began requesting Earth's assistance with various problems. Pirates troubling trade routes, border disputes threatening to escalate, natural disasters overwhelming local response capabilities. In each case, humanity responded. Not always with military force. Sometimes Earth sent engineers, doctors, teachers, or diplomats. But always, humanity answered the call. The pattern was clear. When Earth made a promise, they kept it. When they offered help, it came without hidden strings. When they fought to protect, not to conquer. The galaxy watched and learned. Other species began adopting human tactical doctrines, studying their coordination techniques, analyzing their problem-solving approaches. But more than that, they began reconsidering their own priorities. If the newcomers from Earth could build alliances based on mutual aid rather than mutual interest, perhaps others could too. The Galactic Council, recognizing the shifting political landscape, formally invited Earth to join as a member species. Ambassador Rodriguez accepted on behalf of humanity, but with a condition that surprised many. Earth would only join if the Council established a mutual defense treaty, committing member species to assist each other in times of crisis. The Valorian situation should never happen again, Rodriguez told the Council. No species should send a galaxy-wide SOS and receive only silence. If we're going to call ourselves a civilized galactic community, we need to act like one. The treaty passed, though not unanimously. Some species worried about being dragged into conflicts that didn't concern them. But enough remembered Valoria Prime, remembered the human ships that came when no one else would, and voted yes. The galaxy was changing, slowly but definitely. On Valoria Prime, 1 year after the battle, Commander Lysara stood in the rebuilt plaza and watched the dedication ceremony for a new monument. It was a collaborative work, designed by both Valorian and human artists. The sculpture showed two figures, one Valorian and one human, standing back-to-back, defending each other. At the base, an inscription read in both languages, "No one fights alone." Admiral Chen stood beside her, along with representatives from dozens of species who had come for the ceremony. The plaza was filled with Valorians and humans mixing freely, sharing food, stories, and friendship. It was a scene that would have been unthinkable a year ago. "You changed everything," Lysara said quietly to Chen. "Not just for us, but for the entire galaxy." Chen shook his head. "We just did what we thought was right. The galaxy changed itself by deciding to follow that example." "Will it last?" Lysara wondered. "This new spirit of cooperation, this willingness to help each other?" "I don't know," Chen admitted. "Humans have tried building peaceful civilizations before and sometimes failed, but we keep trying because the alternative, a galaxy where species only help themselves, is too terrible to accept." The ceremony concluded, and the crowd began to disperse. Lysara noticed a group of young Valorians talking excitedly with human crew members, asking about Earth, about humanity's history, about what it meant to be human. The humans answered patiently, sharing stories and perspectives, building bridges, one conversation at a time. "Admiral," Lysara said, "I want you to know that the Valorian people will never forget what humanity did for us. You came when no one else would. You fought when others wouldn't risk themselves. You stayed to help us rebuild when you could have simply left. We owe you everything." "You owe us nothing," Chen replied. "But if you really want to honor what we did, then do the same for someone else someday. If another species sends an SOS, if another civilization needs help, be the ones who answer. That's how we build a better galaxy, one response at a time." Lysara looked at the monument, at the two figures standing together, and made a silent promise. The next time someone called for help, Valoria would answer. They would carry forward the lesson humanity had taught them. Across the galaxy, on hundreds of worlds and thousands of ships, beings looked at the same stars and considered the same question. What kind of galaxy did they want to live in? One where species stood alone, fought alone, died alone? Or one where a galaxy-wide SOS would be answered, where help would come, where no one had to face darkness alone? Humanity had shown them another path was possible. The rest was up to them. On Earth, in the headquarters of the United Nations Space Command, Fleet Admiral Chen's report sat on the desk of the Secretary General. The report was comprehensive, detailing the battle, the victory, the reconstruction efforts, and the diplomatic aftermath. At the end, Chen had added a personal note. "Mr. Secretary, we went to Valoria Prime because it was right. We won because we were smart. We stayed because they needed us. And now, the galaxy is watching to see what we do next. My recommendation, we keep being ourselves. We keep answering when people call. We keep showing the galaxy that there's a better way to do this. Humanity has always been at its best when we're helping others. Let's make sure we never lose that." The Secretary General read the note and smiled. Earth's battle armada had won more than a military victory at Valoria Prime. They'd won something far more valuable. They'd shown the galaxy what humanity stood for. And in doing so, they'd given every species a reason to believe that the future could be better than the past. In the void of space, among the billions of stars and countless worlds, a new era was beginning. An era where SOS signals would be answered, where help would come, where species stood together instead of apart. It wasn't perfect, and it wouldn't happen overnight. But it was a start. And for humanity, for Valoria, and for all the species watching and learning, it was enough. The galaxy had been shown a better way. Now came the hard work of building a civilization worthy of that promise. The stars burned bright overhead, silent witnesses to the choices being made below. And somewhere in that vast darkness, another species was sending their first faster-than-light transmission, wondering what kind of galaxy they would find when someone finally answered. Thanks to Earth, they would receive an answer, and it would be the one that mattered most. You are not alone.